بكرة وأصيلا لا إله إلا الله وحده صدق وعده ونصر عبده وأعز جنده وهزم الأحزاب وحده لا إله إلا الله ولا نعبد إلا إياه مخلصين له الدين ولو كره الكافرون اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد وعلى أصحاب سيدنا محمد وعلى أنصار سيدنا محمد وعلى أزواج سيدنا محمد وعلى ذرية سيدنا محمد وسلم تسليما كثيرا. Dear brothers, dear sisters, on this day of observing our physical release from the obligations of fasting during the month of Ramadan, our Prophet, may Allah's peace and blessings be upon him, says, زينوا أعيادكم بالتكبيرات. Decorate your Eids by expressing these takbirat, by saying Allahu akbar, Allahu akbar, Allahu akbar. Many times, many of us, when we say Allahu Akbar, we say it dismissively, not paying much attention to its practical meaning. We remember when we initiate our salah, we initiate our salah by saying Allahu Akbar. It's called Takbirat al-Ihram, Allahu Akbar. By raising our hands like this, we are putting the world behind us. This indicates all of the world and its affairs we have basically rendered to our rear, and our attention and our connection and our relationship and our attachment now is with Allah. So as we begin our salah with Allahu Akbar, we end our daily salah with Allahu Akbar. We end our monthly fast with Allahu Akbar, saying at the end of Ramadan we are placing the world behind us, which means that the spirit of Ramadan is expected to continue throughout the rest of the 11 months of the year. Salat Al-Eid is a salah in which, of course, we all perform, but besides that, it is also an occasion for as many Muslims as possible to get together. And for that reason, Salat Al-Eid stands out from the other salah, the daily salahs that we have, the 5 daily salah. It stands out that even those of our sisters who are in their monthly period, even though they can't perform the salah of the Eid, but they have to attend the salah of the Eid, unlike the other salah. That's why, according to the thinkers of Islam from whom we inherited some of their thoughts, they encourage this salah to be out in the open and not inside a confined place. In previous years, we used to have this out in the open, but because of intervening circumstances, we are having it here inside these 4 walls, so to speak. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has taken us through this month of observing our diet, our consumption of food, what we eat, what we abstain from, in the course of the ayat in Surah Al-Baqarah that speak about Ramadan and fasting, that begin with يا أيها الذين آمنوا كتب عليكم الصيام كما كتب على الذين من قبلكم لعلكم تتقون. It begins with that ayah, and the following ayat, they concentrate on our digestive needs or on our appetite. And then the following ayahs, they speak about another appetite in us, and that is our reproductive appetite, so to speak, to use a mild word here. And so Allah teaches us as much as possible how to tame that appetite. And then the last ayah is the appetite for wealth and for the assets of this world. وَلَا تَأْكُلُوا أَمْوَالَكُمْ بَيْنَكُمْ بِالْبَاطِلِ. Notice that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says تَأْكُلُوا, which means our relationship, our affinity with acquiring is an appetite. It's an indirect way suggesting that we also have to tame that appetite. And Islam taken as a whole, we're not just looking at Ramadan and fasting, we take a look at the whole spectrum of Islam, and we find that Allah teaches us if we can control these three desires in us, then we are in control of ourselves, and we are in control of our societies, and we are in control of our destiny. Now, when we fast Ramadan, some of us may not pay attention to this, but let's try to focus on it just for a short moment here. When we fast Ramadan, we are as much as possible curtailing our love for consuming the delicious food that we have. And this control of our relationship with food may seem something that is so either remote or something that why do you pay so much attention to this? A person who is not a Muslim, out of the goodness of his heart, he told me one day, he said, Muhammad, do you really think God is concerned with what we eat? There are larger, I'm expressing his meaning with my own words, there are larger fish to fry as far as God is concerned. He's not really, he doesn't pay attention to what I'm going to eat, does he? And he's saying that out of the goodness of his heart. I know the person very well because he used to be my neighbor. May Allah bless his soul. He passed on. But this goes to show you how superficial a person's relationship can become in understanding who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is. Of course he is. Our appetite, our relationship and connection with food is extremely important because we have to be in control of that. We can't have that love for consuming food, delicious food, to be in control of us. This is not permissible. That is why in one of the occasions, Talut, who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala assigned to be the commanders of those who were going out to sacrifice their lives, potentially, they're going out to the sacrifice front. He said, Talut said, إِنَّ اللَّهَ مُبْتَلِيكُمْ بِنَهَرٍ فَمَنْ شَرِبَ مِنْهُ فليس مني ومن لم يطعمه فإنه مني إلا من اغترف غرفة أو غرفة to قراءات بيده. what Talut wanted to teach his troops is, if you can't conquer your own self, if you can't conquer a potential enemy in your own self, you cannot conquer the obvious enemy outside of yourself. Those troops who are on the front there, if you're going to defeat them, you are required to defeat your ego, your inclination towards this world, your indulging in this world. So this, among other lessons in the Quran teaches us that we should resist. I'm putting this in simple words so everyone can understand it. We have to resist what we like. Now, each one of us can do this to a certain degree, and no one should be judgmental of anyone else. Just try to do that as much as you can in your own personal life. Resist what you like, and then endure what you do not like. Be patient with what you do not like. This is, if we wanted to sum up in a sense, the whole practice of abstaining from our 3 appetites, it is summarized in these words. You resist what your nafs tells you to have, and you endure with what your nafs does not want you to have. Coming back to consuming food, eating food, we have taste buds. These are moments we don't pay much. All of us eat, obviously. We've eaten probably tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of times in our lives. During these times, we don't pay attention to the food that we put into our mouth, to take the time to appreciate its taste. Some of us, we just almost swallow the food and almost bypass the mouth. There's something important to understand here, and that is, I know we don't drink, we don't consume alcohol, but if you paid attention to those people who drink alcohol, they don't slush it in their mouth. They almost drop it into their esophagus and stomach. It goes down very fast, because what they are doing is they are feeding that core of the appetite in their stomach, and they are not enjoying with their God-given taste buds the taste of it. That's why in the Quran Allah describes this khamr, this let's say liquor, alcohol, whatever you want to call it. He describes فيها لذة للشاربين, which means the khamr of the akhirah is not like the one in this world. In this world, you just want to swallow it immediately. But in the world to come, you have it swirl in your mouth. فيها لذة للشاربين, which teaches us that we have to go back to the fundamentals to learn how to eat. Ramadan teaches us how to eat. لا غول فيها. This khamr that we will have in the life to come, may Allah provide us with access to His Jannah and to the life of comfort after this life. This doesn't have any ghawl in it. By the way, ghawl is the word alcohol that has become the normal word that we used in the English language. It's taken from a Quranic word. And for those of you who understand Arabic, the Quranic, almost everyone who speaks Arabic knows that alcohol comes from the Arabic language. But they don't know that it comes from the Arabic Quranic language, because the scientists in the Arabic world will tell you alcohol is al-kuhul. That is not an accurate tracing of the origin of the word. It is from al-ghawl. And the al-ghawl simply means almost assassinating your senses. So this tasty thing that we will have in al-akhirah, which is called in this world liquor or whatever you intoxicant you want to call it, which the people who imbibe it, they do it immediately, and they don't expose it to their taste buds. The difference between here and there. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept from us our dedication and our devoted efforts to Him during the month of Ramadan and during the other months of the year. We are not here to kick Ramadan behind us. We are here to have Ramadan propel us through the coming months of the year. والله يقول الحق وهو يهدي السبيل كتب عليكم الصيام كما كتب على الذين من قبلكم لعلكم تتقون. التقوى is the culminating experience of Ramadan, a consciousness of Allah's immediate authority and Allah's preponderant power here and now, not there and then in the akhirah, here and now in this dunya. This has to become part of our living character. This taqwa can't be this word that is ambiguous or that is irrelevant or that is spiritual and that doesn't relate to the real world. It has to be a living word in our living selves. And the consciousness of at-taqwa is part of the consciousness of Allah. It's part of dhikr. Taqwa, you see, we have sort of divorced the word dhikr from the word taqwa. Dhikr is not just repeating certain du'as or certain words, expressions, or phrases. That's not dhikr. Dhikr is when you want to do something wrong. Let's say you want to pick the fruits of someone else's tree. Doesn't belong to you. You see some apples on a tree or some peaches on a tree, you say, oh, I'm going to go pick them. If you go and do it, there's no Allah consciousness in you. But if something tells you inside yourself, no, I can't do that because that doesn't belong to me. That is a dhikr of Allah because you're remembering Allah's reference. Allah is being your reference. If someone wants to cheat on someone else, oh, wait a minute, I can get away with this. I will, instead of giving him 5 pounds, I'll give him 4 pounds. He's buying 5, but I'm giving him 4. But then the last moment you remember, no, I can't do this. Why? Because there's a higher authority and there is a powerful force that is in charge of me. I can't. That's a dhikr of Allah. That's when you remember, and that's when you are conscious of Allah. So you don't go astray. You don't deviate. You remain on a Salat Al-Mustaqim because you are in the company of Allah. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم وادعوه سبحانه وأنتم موقنون بإجابته. Allahu akbar, Allahu akbar, Allahu akbar. وَلِتُكَبِّرُوا اللَّهَ عَلَى مَا هَدَاكُمْ, so that you may magnify Allah for what He has guided you to. This is at the end of the ayah, the second ayah that has to do with our gestational or our digestive or our gastronomical appetite. In this world, you know that the khutbahs that I give are not limited to personal affairs by and large. They deal with beyond our individual character, they deal with our social character. And our social character in this world is bleeding. Almost any geography you pick, from countries in Africa to countries in Asia to Muslim, quote unquote, they call them minorities. A Muslim can never be a minority, but that's what the word that's used out there. Wherever we are, it seems like we are hemorrhaging. There's issues of refugees, there's issues of population displacements, there's issues of poverty, there's issues of deprivation, there's issues of malnutrition, there's issues of illiteracy. All of these issues have plagued our social body. And the reason our social body has become vulnerable to all of this is because we lack our connection with Allah. It's that simple. If we had a very serious and very robust relationship with Allah, these diseases, as much as they are, they will begin to fade away. It may require us in the process to give the ultimate sacrifice, but who's going to be disturbed with that? Let's say, assume for a moment, because some people, they fear, oh wow, that's a big thing. Are you talking about the ultimate sacrifice? And you know what I mean by the ultimate sacrifice. What is this? No, you're asking too much and all this stuff. No. What? All of us are going to pass on. Anyone doubt that? No one doubts that. Everyone's going to pass on. Okay, let's give an analogy here. If I'm going to go from Washington D.C. to, let's say, California, if I'm going to walk there, it's going to take me, I don't know how long it takes you to walk to California, but let's assume it's going to take me a month. It's going to take me 45 days or something like that to walk to California, and I finally arrive. Okay, you say, okay, that's one way of getting there. Someone gets in a car and goes there in 3 days. Does anyone say that, oh my God, he got there in 3 days? You're sort of happy that someone could, instead of staying 30 days, he got there in 3 days. That's something to rejoice about. And then someone gets in a plane and gets there in 5 hours. You say, that's even better. So if it applies to a distance of place, it also applies to a distance of time. If someone, it takes them 70 years to get to Allah, he's going slow. But if someone can get there in 17 years or 27 years, that should be a reason for us to rejoice. There's no sadness about this. There's no azaa about this. There's something to be proud of, something to be accomplished, something that we should look at favorably. But unfortunately, because of the materialism that has penetrated our psychologies and our societies, this type of task becomes, wow, they're asking us to do this type of thing. Yeah, there's nothing. إن الله اشترى من المؤمنين أنفسهم وأموالهم بأن لهم الجنة يقاتلون في سبيل الله فيقتلون ويقتلون وعدا عليه حقا في التوراة والإنجيل والقرآن ومن أوفى بعهده من الله فاستبشروا ببيعكم الذي بايعتم به وذلك هو الفوز العظيم. اللهم أرنا الحق حقا وارزقنا اتباعه وأرنا الباطل باطلا وارزقنا اجتنابه ولا تجعله ملتبسا علينا واجعلنا للمتقين إماما. اللهم إليك نشكو ضعف قوتنا وقلة حيلتنا وهوانا على الناس يا أرحم الراحمين. أنت ربنا وأنت رب المستضعفين، فإلى من تكلنا؟ إلى غريب يتجهمنا أم إلى عدو ملكته أمرنا؟ إن لم يكن بك علينا غضب فلا نبالي، ولكن عافيتك هي أوسع لنا. نعوذ بنور وجهك الذي أشرقت له الظلمات وصلح عليه أمر الدنيا والآخرة من أن تنزل بنا غضبك أو تحل علينا سخطك. لك العتبى حتى ترضى، ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بك. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد، اللهم بارك على محمد وآل محمد، اللهم صل على إبراهيم وآل إبراهيم، اللهم بارك على إبراهيم وآل إبراهيم في العالمين إنك حميد مجيد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. كل عام وأنتم بخير. عيد مبارك، عيد سعيد، عيد كريم to all of you, to your families, to your loved ones, to your acquaintances, to everyone who is dear to you. والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. تقبل الله منا ومنكم. عيد مبارك.